Youth explode onto streets across China, storm government buildings, taunt police. Analysis: the CCP is rotten to the core, everyone is just waiting for the outcome. CCP approves 5 nuclear projects, waste issue left for future generations. Global trade war against China? Canada to impose up to 100% tariffs on Chinese goods. China truths. Youth explode onto streets across China, storm government buildings, taunt police. Recently, large gatherings of teenagers engaging in reckless driving and street racing have been reported across various parts of China, drawing significant public attention. On August 26 and 27, 2024, a notable incident occurred near the municipal government office in Zhangqiu District, Jinan, Shandong, where a large group of teenagers taunted traffic police and stormed the government building, attracting many onlookers. Some citizens even grabbed shared bikes and joined the crowd. Authorities in Shenyang and Zhengzhou have reported several cases of reckless driving and street racing, involving individuals like Yao, Wang, Li, and Yang, as well as Gao, Zhang, Lu, Sulong, and Duan. In a particularly alarming incident, Duan drove a modified electric vehicle without a license plate, forcefully breaking through a checkpoint and injuring a traffic officer. The term reckless driving and street racing refers to deliberate actions like revving the engines of sports cars or motorcycles to create loud noises, drawing crowds and showcasing the driver's skills. These events have garnered international attention, with many netizens overseas applauding the actions, likening them to a spark igniting dry wood. One netizen commented, "Amid the unemployment wave, even with the CCP's vast police force and extensive surveillance system, idle youth will start fires everywhere, forcing the CCP to expend great efforts to extinguish them." Another remarked, "It has begun, the substantial steps toward the collapse of a great power have officially started." The unrest among teenagers is not an isolated issue. According to the China Dissent Monitor by Freedom House, rights protests in China have risen by 18% compared to the same period last year, despite strict information censorship by the CCP. Since Freedom House began collecting data in June 2022, a total of 6,300 dissent incidents have been recorded, including 228 protests in rural areas over forced relocations and land expropriation, and 91 protests involving groups like taxi drivers. Over 2,800 protests were linked to the struggling real estate sector. Freedom House recorded 805 dissent incidents in the second quarter of 2024 alone, marking an 18% increase compared to the same period in 2023. The majority of these incidents were related to labor protests, accounting for 44%, and housing protests, at 21%. The regions with the most protests were Guangdong, followed by Shandong, Hebei, Hunan, and Zhejiang. In cities, Shenzhen, Xi'an, and Sanya saw the highest number of protests related to economic dissatisfaction, with many other high-ranking cities located in Guangdong province. The report said that the economic challenges facing the ruling Communist Party could potentially escalate into broader governance issues. Xing Jianyuan, chairman of the Taiwan Association for Chinese Democracy, noted that while protests have historically been led by ordinary workers easily exploited by their employers, the current situation is unique, with even the middle class, including capitalists, joining in. He pointed out that despite tight surveillance, people are still standing up, signaling a significant crisis. If people are pushed to the brink where they can't sustain their lives, and international pressure combines with domestic discontent, it could force new voices to emerge within the Communist Party, driving progressive change throughout China. As China's economy enters a stagnation phase unseen in 40 years, despite Beijing's economic stimulus efforts, challenges such as the real estate crisis, trade war with the US, crackdowns on private enterprises, and costly pandemic lockdowns continue to weigh on growth. The CCP's tools to manage public discontent are dwindling, and the stability of its rule is increasingly uncertain. Analysis: the CCP is rotten to the core, everyone is just waiting for the outcome. Amid a severe political and economic crisis, veteran media figure Yan Chungo warns that the CCP has decayed to its core and is beyond saving. Now, everyone is just waiting for the inevitable outcome. In August, an online article revealed a shocking case of a 33-year-old woman, a graduate from one of Beijing's top universities, who starved to death in her rented apartment. This incident sparked public debate on the true state of China's economy, the mental resilience of young people, and potential unfair practices in civil service exams. Footage circulating on social media shows that in first-tier cities like Guangzhou and Shenzhen, known for their economic affluence, many young people who are unemployed or lack stable jobs are forced to sleep under bridges due to an inability to pay rent. On August 21, Reuters reported that the term "rotten tail kids" gained rapid popularity on social media this year, drawing parallels to the millions of unfinished rotten tail buildings that have troubled China's economy since 2021. Official CCP data indicates that this year's college graduates number 11.79 million, but severe youth unemployment persists, with millions of graduates struggling to find jobs. Some have even returned home to live as full-time children, relying on their parents' pensions and savings. Meanwhile, China's real estate market continues to decline, with sales plummeting and construction nearly stalled. Despite significant price cuts, numerous vacant homes remain unsold across the country. Amidst this economic turmoil, intense infighting has plagued the CCP's top ranks, leading to severe governmental inefficiency. Many officials have chosen to lie flat. The card game guandan, or throwing eggs in English, has become popular within the CCP's political and business circles, but in August, CCP state media condemned the game, banning officials from playing it. Recently, terms like guandan, lying flat, youth nursing homes, and the garbage time of history have become popular in Chinese society, reflecting widespread pessimism about the country's economic prospects. On August 28, 2024, Yan Chungo wrote on Facebook, stating that Chinese society is experiencing a deep moral decline with escalating social conflicts, collapsing officialdom, and growing public resentment. He noted that severe life pressures are pushing families to the brink, making life unbearable for some, leading some to end their suffering by ending their lives. Yan described the social decay as having reached a severe and irreversible stage. The article questions why many see China's current situation as signaling the CCP's collapse, arguing that the abnormal social phenomena are not isolated or temporary but deeply interconnected issues rooted in the system itself. Without addressing these systemic flaws, none of these problems can be resolved. It further argues that the CCP's one-party rule is fundamentally at odds with the interests of the Chinese people. When the CCP prospers, the people suffer. The article suggests that only the CCP's downfall can provide the Chinese people with an opportunity to thrive. It concludes that the CCP is on an irreversible path to disintegration, having rotted to its core, beyond any chance of rescue, and all that remains is to wait for the inevitable outcome. In December 2023, a senior executive from a well-known media group in China, using the pseudonym Jinhua, revealed to the Epoch Times that most CCP officials he encountered expressed dissatisfaction with the current government policies and the state of economic decline. In February, former Chinese Academy of Social Sciences researcher Liu Juning described the CCP as being in the garbage time of history, suggesting it is in the countdown phase toward regime change. Liu stated that during this period, no one can reverse the course of history, and the public can only endure by lying flat. CCP approves 5 nuclear projects, waste issue left for future generations. On August 19, 2024, Chinese Premier Li Qiang approved 5 coastal nuclear power projects, involving 11 reactors and an estimated investment exceeding 200 billion yuan, or about $28.23 billion, marking a historic record for the number of nuclear approvals. China Energy News reports that the projects include Jiangsu Shuwei Phase 1 under China National Nuclear Corporation, Shandong Zhaoyuan Phase 1 and Guangdong Lufeng Phase 1 under China General Nuclear Power Group, Zhujiang Sanao Phase 2, and Guangxi Bailong Phase 1 under State Power Investment Corporation. Analysts have raised concerns that, despite the CCP's claims of using advanced nuclear technology, these projects still rely on nuclear fission, which inevitably produces nuclear waste. Large-scale construction of new nuclear fission plants is currently only seen in authoritarian countries, as the United States and other developed nations have shifted focus to nuclear fusion research, viewing fission as outdated technology. Nuclear waste disposal remains a global challenge. Even the United States has not yet found an effective permanent solution, and China's situation is no different. China's nuclear power plants, operational for only about a decade, still store their waste on site without any long-term disposal plan. This trend of expanding nuclear fission plants is largely confined to authoritarian regimes, leaving the nuclear waste problem for future generations. Speaking to Sound of Hope on the 27th, nuclear energy expert Fei Lianyong, based in Germany, talked about the complexities of nuclear waste disposal. Fei said, "Nuclear waste remains hazardous for hundreds or even thousands of years, making nearby areas potentially uninhabitable. China might consider storing this waste in remote locations like the deserts of Xinjiang." Fei also remarked that historically, authoritarian regimes have never truly cared about their people. He said, "When the US developed its first reactor, there was already an awareness of safety. Marie Curie had discovered the harmful effects of radiation, so precautions were taken seriously. Even when the atomic bomb was successfully detonated, not a single person died." In contrast, the Soviet Union, in its race to catch up with the US after seeing the atomic bomb, neglected these safety measures, resulting in almost all of its first-generation scientists dying from radiation exposure. China's efforts came much later, and even Tsinghua University's engineering department was established with Soviet assistance. Cui Suhsin, Secretary General of the Green Citizens Action Alliance in Taiwan, told Voice of America that the CCP's abrupt decision to approve 5 nuclear plants took the international community by surprise. She believes this move is likely intended to boost domestic demand and revive China's nuclear industry exports, particularly after the Fukushima disaster in Japan, as part of broader efforts to stimulate economic growth and address China's struggling economy. Global trade war against China? Canada to impose up to 100% tariffs on Chinese goods. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced on August 26, 2024, that Canada would impose a 100% tariff on electric vehicles imported from China, alongside a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum imports. The move follows the United States' lead in responding to what Trudeau described as China's state-driven overcapacity policies. He stated, "I think we all know that China is not playing by the same rules." These tariffs are set to take effect on October 1, 2024. Trudeau noted the need for coordinated actions with other global economies during a 3-day closed-door cabinet meeting in Halifax, Nova Scotia. He said that Ottawa will continue collaborating with the United States and other allies to ensure global customers are not unfairly impacted by China's non-market behavior. He also indicated that additional punitive measures, including potential tariffs on chips and solar cells, are under consideration, although no specific details were provided. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Canada responded with strong disapproval, accusing Canada of going its own way and expressing strong dissatisfaction and firm opposition. This action follows similar moves by other Western countries. In May 2024, U.S. President Joe Biden announced a quadrupling of tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles to 100%, a doubling of tariffs on semiconductors and solar cells to 50%, and new 25% tariffs on strategic materials like lithium-ion batteries and steel. Earlier this month, the European Union imposed tariffs of up to 36.3% on imported electric vehicles. The Canadian government aims to position Canada as a key player in the global electric vehicle supply chain and faces pressure from domestic industries to take action against China. China-EU trade war escalates. China-EU trade tensions are escalating as Beijing hits back against the EU's decision to impose tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. The EU's move has sharply cut the flow of Chinese EVs to Europe. In response, China is investigating EU imports of pork, brandy, and chemicals, and is planning to hike tariffs on large displacement fuel vehicles. On August 23, China's Ministry of Commerce met with automakers and industry groups to discuss these tariff hikes. They stated they were listening to industry and expert opinions on increasing import duties, with input from various organizations, research bodies, and car companies. This marks Beijing's latest warning amid rising tensions over the EU's tariff plans. The EU's 27 members will vote in October on whether to raise import duties on Chinese EVs, potentially lifting the rate from 10% to as high as 36.3%. Despite slightly reducing the proposed tariffs, Brussels has not scrapped the plan, fueling Beijing's frustration. Beijing retaliated on August 21 by expanding investigations into EU imports, adding countervailing probes into products like cheese, milk, and cream, alongside existing anti-dumping investigations. While EU leaders vow to shield their markets from Chinese subsidies, Beijing warns it will take all necessary measures to defend the rights of Chinese enterprises. As both sides dig in, a China-EU trade war seems increasingly inevitable. According to Reuters, Josep Borrell, the outgoing EU foreign policy chief, commented at an event in Spain, "We mustn't be naive, we have no interest to get into a trade war. But maybe it's unavoidable. It's also the logic of things." Xi Jinping insists on advancing large-scale investment in the manufacturing sector. Beijing has announced a major investment plan to boost manufacturing, aiming to stimulate the economy and strengthen industrial capabilities. However, this move has sparked global trade tensions, as China's manufacturing push pressures companies worldwide, raising fears of a potential global trade war. According to the Wall Street Journal, U.S. startup Cubic PV had planned a $1.4 billion wafer factory in Texas, driven by U.S. climate policies and tax incentives. But China's overcapacity in silicon wafers has distorted global prices, forcing Cubic PV to suspend its plans. Similarly, Chilean steelmaker CCP has shut down a major plant due to China dumping cheap metals. Beijing's strategy aims to revitalize the economy and build industrial resilience, but it's also fueling trade tensions. The EU recently imposed additional tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, and countries like India, Japan, and the UK are launching anti-dumping probes into Chinese products. Advisors suggest China should reduce its reliance on manufacturing and focus on boosting domestic demand for sustainable growth. However, President Xi Jinping remains committed to a state-led manufacturing model, emphasizing sectors like EVs, semiconductors, and green energy. Xi prioritizes building a comprehensive supply chain to counter potential international sanctions, despite the immediate overcapacity issues. The report warns that China's aggressive capacity expansion could trigger more trade protectionist measures in the future. If China can't find enough markets to absorb its new capacity, it could face severe economic and trade challenges, impacting not just China but global markets and the international trade system. Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.